Alright, welcome back to part 2 of our classical Greece unit. Today we'll be looking at the Greek city-states, or the polis. Alright, what is the polis? Which means city-state in Greece. Okay, this is the central focus of Greek government. Alright, it could be a town, a city, or a surrounding village. And polis is where we get the term politics from. Alright, so the country of Greece is one big peninsula. A lot of people think the Peloponnese specifically right here, which is this other peninsula jutting off of another peninsula, it looks like a hand. And if you look closely, looks like it has at least 4 fingers. Alright, monotheistic or polytheistic? Polytheistic, of course. Now, the main gathering for the cities, or the polis, was on a hill, or an acropolis. The acropolis is a fortified area on a hill. You'll notice here there are buildings and structures built on top of this hill to give it more protection, such as the Parthenon on the very top, which is a beautiful structure. The most famous acropolis is in Athens. It also features the Parthenon, and this was a temple dedicated to Athena. Beautiful Parthenon, even though it's in ruins. Below the Acropolis was the Agora, and the Agora was the open marketplace. Alright, we have new Greek army tactics during this time. We have what are called hoplites. These are soldiers with short swords, a large round shield, and a thrusting spear. And then the formation is known as a phalanx, which is a closed formation, which creates essentially a wall of shields. Oh, let me go back. Alright, so a wall of shields. Notice each shield rubs against each other, and it essentially looks like one giant wall. A nearly impenetrable defense. Alright, city-states. Cities that behaved like independent nations. They had mountains that separated them, so they developed unique identities, and they rarely joined together. Alright, Athens. So we're going to talk about two city-states in particular. We have Athens and Sparta. Each city-state had its own government, but what they all shared was a common culture. They worshipped the same gods. They worshipped, what's the word? And Zeus, all of them, but it's similar culture. All right, Athens was near the sea, and they were heavily involved in trade, and they had a very strong navy. And there they encouraged free thought and culture. They glorified mankind. They were humanist. They were very worldly and rational. They exalted free inquiry, which is free thinking. They were very competitive. Athenian values. They valued the beauty of the male body, such as the boxer, the discus thrower. They saw knowledge as supreme, the nobility of human achievement, and democracy, the belief in the individual's rights. Athenian exports: vine and olive products, olive oils, and olives. Monarchs, kings. These are different Greek political structures. Monarchy or king. You have aristocracy, where a government is run by a small group of nobles, and the nobles own the land. Oligarchy, which is ruled by a few people. We have a tyrant, or a single individual who seizes control. And direct democracy. All male citizens have the right to vote. Alright, in 621 BC, we have a Draco who writes the first legal code, made contracts establishing property rights, and started debt slavery. In 594 BC, Solon, he outlawed debt slavery, gave all citizens were allowed to participate in the government assembly, and citizens were able to bring charges. He also began exporting grapes and olives. In 546 BC, we have Pisistratus. He taxed rich farmers to fund a building program and helped peasants buy farm equipment. In 508 BC, we have Cleisthenes, who said all citizens could submit a law, and the Council of 500 was chosen by lot. The council will advise the assembly. So the legislative lawmaking, we had the assembly and Athenian government, which consisted of all male citizens over the age of 20 years old, and they made the laws and voted policy and taxes, whereas the Council of 500 was chosen by lot to serve 1 year, and they were the ones who proposed the laws to the assembly. And so they have two other branches. We have an executive branch, where we had 9 archons and a commander-in-chief. These were elected annually by the assembly. They directed policy in the armed forces, whereas other officials were chosen by lot to serve 1 year. We also have a judicial branch where the Athenian government had their own juries, which consisted of members of the assembly who were chosen by lot, and they tried all law cases. Alright. Alright, Sparta is a landlocked country. They have a very strong army and they are a military state. They're isolated. They do not encourage foreigners or trade. Now the Spartans, when the baby was washed, they were washed with wine when they were born, and then they were examined by a council of elders. And if they were sickly, they were left to die. At the age of 8, they were sent to the Agog, where 13 years of training begins, where they're beaten, forced to march barefoot, and they housed with other boys. They were taught to have no reaction to pain. At 12, they were given one cloak to wear. So for 4 years, they are basically naked. Okay? They slept on reeds. They did not bathe. They were given little food and taught to steal. At 16, they were able to kill their first helot. If a Spartan male passed his military training, then he became a Spartan soldier and a privileged citizen of Sparta and was given land and rights. Alright, Spartan social classes. Well, the Spartans themselves, which is 1/20th of the population, they alone had political privileges, very conservative, and slow to change. They were the nobility. We had I believe the Perioeci, the dwellers around the people who had been Spartan allies or surrendered to them. They could carry on trade and manufacturing. And then we had the Helots, who were bound to the soil, and they had no rights in Sparta. Alright. The Helots were enslaved by the Spartans. They outnumbered the Spartans 20-1. They had to give half their crops to the Spartans. Spartan men always trained for war. They were not allowed another type of job. Spartans believed that outsiders would ruin their system of training or soften their men. At 30, a Spartan could marry. Women received physical training as well. And at 60, a man could retire. Spartan government was an oligarchy. They had 2 kings who led the Spartan armies on campaign, and they had 5 Ethors. They had unlimited power, and they were elected each year, and they were responsible for the education of the youth and the conduct of all citizens. Alright, the Council of Elders, which is 2 kings and 28 citizens over the age of 60, they made decisions about the laws that would be voted on by the male assembly, and the assembly would vote to not discuss or debate an issue. They just voted. Alright, the city-states will unite. The only time the Greek city-states of Athens and Sparta ever united was when the Greek peninsula was threatened during the Persian War, which leads into part 3 of our classical Greece unit, the Persian Wars.